Welcome to more absolute value equations. In the first setup we came up with a method for solving absolute value equations, and I just want to recall that. I've put it here at the top of the sheet. It says to solve absolute value equations, do the following three steps. First, put the equation in the form the absolute value of m is equal to k. The only thing on the left is the absolute value. This won't work if there's anything else on the left. Second, write it in the form m equals k or m equals negative k. Note, the absolute value is gone from the m in step 2. Don't keep putting absolute values. Step 2 gets rid of the absolute values. And then finally solve for x. So let's give it a try here in example 1. Okay, the first thing I want to do, and I've miswritten the problem. Got the wrong example there, so let me write this the way that it's supposed to be. The first thing that we're supposed to do here is get the absolute value, that's absolute value of 3x minus 5 by itself. So we have to get rid of the 4 and we have to get rid of the negative 2. The very last thing done to x is the subtract 2, so that's the first thing I'm going to get rid of. So I add 2 to both sides. And I get the absolute value of 3x plus 5 over 4 is equal to, and I'm adding 2 to both sides, is equal to 13. Now the next thing I have to do is get rid of the 4, and once I get rid of the 4, then I'll have the absolute value by itself, so I multiply by 4, the 4's cancel, and I have completed step 1. I have isolated my absolute value. Now step 2, once you've got your absolute value of the mess is equal to 52, write that the mess is equal to 52 or the mess is equal to negative 52. So I write the mess 3x plus 5 is equal to 52, or the mess 3x plus 5 is equal to negative 52. Many times when you see this on a student's paper on a test, they have not dropped the absolute value. You're dropping the absolute value as you go into step 2. Now step 3 just says solve for x. So I'll put over here step 3, solve. And notice we have two things to solve. So on the left one, I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. And I get 3x equals 47. X equals 47 thirds. Or on the right, I subtract 5 again, but this time when I subtract 5 from negative 52, I get negative 57. I divide both sides by 3, x equals negative 19. And there are your two solutions to that problem. If you go back to the original and plug in the 47 thirds, you have the absolute value of 3 times 47 thirds. That's times, not 3 and 47 thirds. Plus 5 over 4 minus 2. And the 3's cancel. So you get the absolute value of 52, which is just 52. Over 4, that's 13 minus 2, and that is 11, so that first answer checks. And if you check in the negative 19, you'll also see that the second answer checks. Let's try a second one now. Same general structure, and the first thing we still have to do is isolate that absolute value. This time it's the absolute value of 2x minus 1. So I have to get rid of the 14, and I have to get rid of the 3. I'll start by getting rid of the 14 because that's the very last thing done to x. You want to get rid of the last thing first. Absolute value of 2x minus 1 over 3 is equal to negative 6. Let's get rid of the 3. Times 3 times 3. The 3's cancel on the left, and you get the absolute value of 2x minus 1 is equal to negative 18. Well, we saw in the first podcast an absolute value is always positive. It can never be negative. So it makes no difference what we put in for x. This is not going to be solvable. So we simply stop the process. We write no solutions, box our answer, and that completes this podcast.